Idam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Īśāvāsyapaniṣad sarvam yat kinca jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitha magridha kasya svidhanam kurvanneveha karmahani jijiveshe chathago samaha yevam tvahinaanyate tosti na karma lipyate nare asurya namate loka andhe tamasa pratha Dagunste pretyabhigachanti ye kechat mahano janaha anejadekam manaso javiyo nainadeva apnuvan purvamashat tadhavatto jnanat tishtat tasmin napo matarishva dadhati tade jati tannai jati taddure tadvantike tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya bāhyatah.
The Īśāvāsyopaniṣad belongs to the category of the Mantropanishad. Mantropanishad means that which comes in the beginning portion of the Veda itself. Distinct and different from Mantropanishad is the Brahmanopanishad. Brahmanopanishad means which comes in the later portion of the Veda. And that which comes in the later portion of the Veda will be seen as a commentary on the Mantropanishad. So there will be a Mantropanishad and then there will be a Brahmanopanishad elaborating on the Mantropanishad. Even though we say Upanishad means the end portion of the Vedas, some Upanishads don't come in the last chapter of the book. It comes in the beginning itself. And there are some Upanishads that comes right in the middle also. So anything that comes in the beginning, middle, all will be categorized as Mantropanishad. For example, in the Upanishad that we are studying, the Shukla Yajurveda Upanishad, Īśāvāsyopaniṣad, the first one that you see here, the Īśāvāsyopaniṣad, the same Veda has Brihadaranyaka at the later portions. So what it would be seen as Brahmanopanishad, the Brihadaranyaka will be a elaboration on Īśāvāsyopaniṣad. Therefore, it is almost like one Upanishad commenting on the other Upanishad. So Brihadaranyaka Upanishad becomes a commentary on the Īśāvāsyopaniṣad. Just as Prashnopanishad is almost like a commentary on Mundakopanishad. Mundakopanishad we have studied. Half studied, I don't know. 1/3 studied only, not even full studied. 1/3 only we have studied. The 2/3 we are going to study this time now. So the Prashnopanishad becomes a commentary on, the Prashnopanishad will become a commentary on the Mundakopanishad. And then we went on to see how the very invocation of this Upanishad, Purnamada Purnamidam itself, is distinct and different invocatory prayer from the other Upanishads. We saw how each and every Veda has its own Shanti Pata. We saw that. In every Shanti Pata, there will be the teacher and the taught together saying something which will not be relevant to the Upanishadic conversation, but it will be more like preparation for the Upanishadic conversation. For example, the most famous prayer that we use in all other classes, Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, etc. There is a prayer there. We can call it as a prayer. Prayer means an awareness of what you want and an awareness of what you want to avoid. In the Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, we have seen that. Let us not quarrel amongst each other. Let us not fight with each other. Now, why will any teacher and the student fight? First of all, yeah, it is always true that the student always wants to show that I always know one or two things more than the teacher. The student always will have that thing to show. But which teacher is going to fight with the student? Remember when we spoke about Arjuna and Dronacharya, we saw this. As a teacher, the teacher always will have one or two things extra than the student. No, how much ever the student is wise, teacher means one or two extra things they will always have. So, and then what is that prayer? Let us not fight with, let us not quarrel with each other. So, each and every Shanti Pata, if you take, and then Badram Karne Bishnuyama Devaha, Apyayantu Mamangani Vakpranas Chaksu Shrotramato Balam Indriyani Sarvani, let all my Indriyas have the Balam. Here, nothing of that is said. Straight away, it starts with the pronoun. Actually, it doesn't start with the pronoun, but it continues like straight away. It starts with what? Purnamadha. And then we have said Om. That Om is always a very orthodox, traditional way of starting anything. When it comes to the mantra, we will say Om. When it comes to the shlokas, we will say Om. When you come to the Palashruti also, we will say Om. Palashruti as in every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Every chapter when we enter the Bhagavad Gita, there also we'll say Om Tat Sat. So Om is a very Om is the word that is used in, we won't use the word, we should not call it as word, we should call it as Shabda, the sound. So the Om Shabda will be used everywhere. Because it is used everywhere, we really don't elaborate about it, talk about it. Therefore, straight away we went into the invocation. Purnamada Purnamidam. And then we studied this, what is this Adaha and Idam. And then we concluded how Purnamada Purnamidam is a Mahavakya. That also we have that also we derived. Shrikant, யாருக்கும் ஞாபகம் இருக்காது, அதனால we keep reminding. We come very fresh to the class, so we don't remember so many things. I'm trying to, because the way people look, oh my God, where is Mahavakya? This Purnamada Purnamidam, how does it become Mahavakya? We already derived it last week. I don't know, last week or the previous session, we derived. And what is the definition of the Mahavakya? The definition of the Mahavakya is where any statement that reveals the identity is called a Mahavakya. That is the definition of Mahavakya. Whenever we say great statement, and throughout the Upanishads, there are hundreds of Mahavakyas. Even though for sample we study only the four. Prajnanam Brahma, Tattvamasi, Ayam Atma Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi are the four examples of Mahavakyas we take and study. But in and through these Mahavakyas, one thing should be common. Then only it can be called as a Mahavakya. The definition of Mahavakya is what now? Identity has to be established. What is identity? The seen and then the unseen, which is Brahman, both are one and the same. In Sanskrit, technically we call it as Jiva Brahma Aikyam. Technically, it will be called as Jiva Brahma Aikyam. Jiva Brahma Aikyam means the essential oneness. Now, you don't find any Upanishad starting like this. That's why in the very first introduction to Īśāvāsya, we said, even though it's a very small Upanishad, the mantras have a very, very, very contextual meaning, and also it gives us a lot of scope to expand. When it comes to the depth of it, all Upanishads are the same. Don't say Upanishad has got more depth than any other book. Now, we can't say Bhajagovindam is not that deep, Bhagavad Gita is relatively deep, Upanishad is the deepest. We don't distinguish it in that way. All scriptures have the same depth. We can't say the English book Fall of Human Intellect, Vedanta treatise is not as deep as Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishad. In all scriptures, the depth is one and the same. If the depth is one and the same in all the scriptures, then why read so many scriptures? We need to read a few of the scriptures. Actually speaking, we are not reading all the scriptures. Then we will be like the sage Bharadwaja, who wants to read everything, who wants to read everything. And Shiva came and told him what? The grains and the beach can be counted, but the number of Vedas cannot be counted. So when can you say that I have studied all the books, Bharadwaja? Stop this. The Upanishad itself, there are so many minor Upanishads. One of the minor Upanishads says there are 1,100 Upanishads at one point in time. See, what you have to understand is, if there are 1,100 Upanishads, there have been 1,100 branches of the Vedas. Today, we don't have that many branches of the Vedas. 1,100 Vedas and all is not there. We have only 4-5 shakas. And the 4-5 shakas itself, if you go to this Motilal Banarsidass publications, they have done all the Vedas, including the Upanishad will come in that. And if you go and see just the 4-5 shakas, the branches that we are having, itself runs into thousands of pages. Imagine having 1,100 Vedas. How do you even understand all that? So Bharadwaja said, you can't try all this. Shiva came and told Bharadwaja, don't try to understand all this. But a few must be studied. Why the few must be studied? We need to study a few in detail. We need to study a few in elaboration, because we need material for manana, reflection. Again, we need to read a lot in detail because we need material for reflection. Why do we need material for reflection? When there is lot of material, the mind will be occupied with the scriptures. Therefore, lot of material is required. Supposing if you don't give lot of material for reflection, where will the mind be occupied with? Mind will still keep going back to the world again and again and again. Therefore, what do we understand here? A few Upanishads has to be studied, And the reading of this is very important because material for reflection. And Īśāvāsyopaniṣad provides a lot of material for reflection. Invocation itself provides us this. And then once we go into the mantras, we will see whenever, first of all, let me decide when I am going to stop the invocation first. Then if we go to the mantras, we'll see. So what is the invocation saying? Purnam adaha idam. Purnam ada, purnam idam. That, this. That means classic Vedic Vedantic language. That means Brahman. This means the world. Actually speaking, we should not even say the world. That means Brahman. This means you, the Jiva, the individual. So Purnamada, Purnamidam means that is Purnam. This is Purnam. Now that is Purnam is easy to explain. Brahman is full, Brahman is all pervading, Brahman is this, Nirgunaha, Nishkriyaha, Sat, Chit, Ananda. It is easy to explain how that is Purnam. Very difficult to understand how this is Purnam. So if you take the literal meaning and say this is Purnam, you will not understand anything. Why? Because in the literal meaning, this is not Purnam. If you take the literal meaning, that is Purnam, you can take the literal meaning, it is correct. If you take the literal meaning of this is Purnam, then it's not correct. Why? By any of our experience, are we experiencing Purnatvam? No. We are not experiencing Purnatvam in any sense. Okay. Is Apurnatvam unique only to you or it is to everything in creation? Apurnatvam is not unique only to you as an individual. Apurnatvam is the very stuff of creation. What does Apurnatvam means? Nothing in creation can experience fullness. Nothing in creation can be all-pervading. Nothing in creation can be changeless. Therefore, this is never Purnam if you take the literal meaning. Are you able to follow? If you take the literal meaning, this cannot be Purnam. From your own experience, you understand that you don't experience Purnatvam in any way. And if you look at everything around also, there's no Purnatvam at all. For example, we say Brahman is all pervading. Correct. You look at yourself. We are not even chair pervading. We are not even room pervading. How can we say we are all pervading? Therefore, this is Purnam cannot be the literal meaning. That's how we derive. This cannot be Purnam is not the literal meaning. Then what is the meaning of saying this is Purnam? We have studied all this, no? And I'm only summarizing so that we need to go to the other three words today. Adaya, avasishyate, udachyate, that we have to study today. So how did we establish that Purnam? How did we establish Purnam idam? It's not the literal meaning idam. The instruments is not Purnam. The instruments cannot be Purnam. If the instruments is not Purnam, then what is Purnam? The essence of idam is Purnam. That is Purnam. The essence of this is Purnam. Therefore, now we brought in a new word. What is the new word that we brought in? At the level of the instruments, it can never be Purnam. At the essence, it is Purnam. Both are one and the same. Adaha and Idam becomes one and the same. Jiva, Brahma, Aikya, both are one and the same, not on an experiential plane. Aikyam doesn't happen as an experience. That also we saw. Aikyam is not a subject matter of experience. Aikyam is a subject matter of anirvachaniyam, indescribable it is. Therefore, Purnamada, Purnamidam. That is okay. That is whole. This is whole. Then comes the next. What is it? Purnat, Purnam, Udachyate. Again, we cannot take the literal meaning also. Because if you take the literal meaning, again it's a problem. Why? Because from infinite, infinite arises. How can there be a arising out of infinite? Then what is this? Udachyate means, this is where we say all discussions is happening from the standpoint of Nama Rupa. Udachyate, discussion happens from the standpoint of Nama Rupa. If you take Purnam as essence, then the entire invocatory prayer will have no meaning. Supposing if you take the meaning of Udachyate as in spoken from the Nama Rupa angle, it is different. Therefore, from the standpoint of their nature, both are one and the same. Okay, what is Adaha and Idam has common nature? What is the common nature? That also we saw. Adaha and Idam. What is the common nature? The common nature of both has been given in another Mahavakya. What is another Mahavakya? Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness. Consciousness is the essence in both. That's where this is how we have to think. For one Mahavakya, to explain one Mahavakya, we take the support of another Mahavakya. To explain one portion of the Veda, we have to take another portion of the Veda. In order to explain a principle of physics, you cannot take anthropology and explain it. Amit, you follow? When you explain one, the explanation must come from the same science. One science cannot be explained using the science of another. Pramanam it is. Therefore, Purnamada, Purnamidam. When we say Purnamada, Purnamidam is one and the same. In essence, they are one and the same. And if we say in essence they are one and the same, what is the essence? That this Upanishad is not saying, we have to borrow it from another Upanishad. That's where the study of few Upanishads and the few books are very necessary to, it will make connections very easy. Therefore, when we say essence, which Upanishad talks, which Mahavakya talks about the essence? Prajnanam Brahma says consciousness. And Tattvamasi said, you are that consciousness. There, when we did you are that in Vedanta treatise, if you remember, you are that consciousness is not the body, mind, intellect is consciousness. Same distinction we are also bringing in here. The same methodology that we adopted to analyze there is the same methodology that we are adopting here. So when we say you are consciousness, obviously you doesn't mean the body, mind, intellect here. Then what is the similarity? Consciousness is the similarity. Udachyate. Now action is being come about. Purnamada, Purnamidam is a recognition of a fact. There is no action there. Correct? Okay. To put it in a very simple way, is knowing an action? Most of the time, knowing is used as a verb, as an action. But in Vedanta, knowing is not a verb, an action. In the normal sense, that's why if you remember, I said Mimamsa analysis we'll do little bit. Every class we'll do little bit of Mimamsa analysis just to make it more and more confusing. That's all. In all worldly aspects, knowing is an action. Knowledge, knowing is an action. It's not a knowing is a verb. Correct? Knowing is a verb, denotes an action. Here, knowing is not an, in Vedanta, knowing is not an action. How do we say knowing is an action in the worldly sense? Action implies a result, a change. Again, action implies a result, a change. You do an action, there has to be a change as the result of that action, no? Are you able to follow? Action means it should produce a action will produce a result. A result in whom the karta will do karma and the karma pala influences whom? The karta only. Therefore, knowing will always bring a change in the subject, the knower. Here, we are not saying knowing is an action here. How do we say that? Tattvamasi already explained that. You are that already. So knowing you are that already is not an action. Here, udachyate, adaya, avasishyate, 3 words, all denoting something. Carefully follow. Purnamada, Purnamidam explains Brahma Satyam. Adaya, avasishyate, Purnasya, Purnamadhaya, Purnameva avasishyate. This adaya avasishyate explains Jagat Mithya. Therefore, the theme of the invocation is Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya. Now we take these 3 words to explain how Jagat Mithya comes in. So Purnamada Purnamidam explained Brahma Satyam. Now, how do we explain this Jagat Mithya? This is what we are trying. This is what we are trying to do today. Let us see how successful we'll be in understanding this. Purnasya Purnam Adhaya. The word Adhaya implies originates, arises, emerges, comes out. So, the easiest meaning of the word udachyate, not adaya, sorry, udachyate. The very easiest meaning of the word udachyate is arises, emerges. Therefore, in the commentary, you will find it has translated as what? From the whole emerges. Emerging is an action, comes out. Okay, something has come out. What remains? If something is taken out of something, there must be a reduction in, there must be a reduction in quantity. isn't it? If there is a bucket of water, you have taken 3 mugs of water, what will happen to the water in the bucket? It should be reduced by 3. Okay, and then you add the 3 mugs back. What will happen? You will get the same. This is the very basic algebra, isn't it? The whole can be divided into parts, and when you put the parts together, it cannot exceed the sum of the whole. Correct? Very basic algebra. But then these 3 words comes out, having taken avasishyate, gives a different meaning. What is the different meaning? It is there, you take out, it is still remains it is there, you take out something, having taken something, it remains the same. Again and again and again, we keep giving the same example. What is that example? You have 10 rupees. It's a very weird mathematics here. You have 10 rupees. You give away 5 rupees. You are left with 5 rupees. You have 10 rupees. You give away 10 rupees. You will be left with Ram Subramaniam. Very basic mathematics. You have 10 rupees. You give away 10 rupees. What you will be left with? 0. Upanishad is saying, you have 10 rupees, you give away 10 rupees, what you will be left with is 10 rupees. Beautiful. This mathematics that it is giving us is very, very beautiful. From this mathematics, we come to the conclusion. From this mathematics, we come to the conclusion. What is the conclusion? You have 10 rupees, 10 rupees is given away, it comes back, it all remains the same. It means what? All the experiences of Nama Rupa is Mithya. So, something coming out, something existing, and something going back, all this nothing but a myth. That's why it's called Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. So, now we are trying to establish Jagat Mithya. And no Upanishadic invocation has this message. That's why Purnamada Purnami is a different, is a different Upanishad, different invocatory prayer itself. Adi Shankaracharya, when he writes Bhashyas, in 3 different places this Purnamada Purnamida comes. And in all the 3 places he has given 3 different commentaries. Aurobindo writes a beautiful commentary on Upanishad. And what we have is the 11th commentary. He has written 10 commentaries. And what we have today is the 11th commentary. Now, only the 11th commentary is in publication. If you go there, you can see all the 11 commentaries. How can you give on an invocation so many meanings? Sahana Vahatu, Sahano Bhunatu doesn't give us this provision. It is very clear. Apyayantu mamangani vakpranas chakshu is very clear. There cannot be multiple meanings there. May my limbs be strong. What multiple meanings can be given there? But then this Purnamada, Purnamidam and Adaya, Avasishyate, etc. can be given so many. Why? It takes the very essence of the Vedas and giving. What is the very essence? Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. And then there is an later on addition to that also. Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. Namarupa is temporary. The essence remains the same. Out of the essence, the Nama Rupa arises and the Nama Rupa merges back. One question that you should not ask is why. Don't ask this question why, because it is such a it is such a looks like a very brilliant question, but it's a very dumb question to ask why. Out of Purnam, why something will come, why something will go. The Upanishad will turn back and ask, I am cooperating with your ignorance and trying to explain to you. Because you are seeing a Jagat, the explanation of the Jagat is given. Again, because you are seeing a Jagat, an explanation to the Jagat is given. And what is the explanation that is given to the Jagat? What is your experience of Jagat? Okay, what is the experience? Okay, forget about the experience of Jagat. What is the experience that you have about yourself? You, the doubter, is real. Correct? You can doubt everything. You can doubt everything. You can question everything. You can doubt everything. But the doubter sitting there, doubting everything is real. Now, what is the Upanishad invocation trying to explain? What you are doubting, the Upanishad is not explaining. What the Upanishad is explaining? Anybody? The Upanishad is explaining the doubter who's sitting with the sense of reality is a myth. Because the doubter understands everything around the doubter is temporary. Correct? Okay. Put it like this in a very simple way. Everything is changing. Do you need Krishna or Upanishads to come and tell you everything is changing? If your Jnanendriyas are working fine, you will understand everything is changing. Isn't it? If your Jnanendriyas are fine, you will understand everything is changing. You don't need anybody to come and tell you everything in the world is changing. Everything in this world is temporary. Do you need anybody to come and teach you that? Sadly, if we require this itself as a teaching, it's not sad, but okay. But then this is common sense. Scripture need not come and teach you that which is already known to you. What should be known to you? Everything around you is temporary. But one thing that you can never doubt is what? You can understand the temporariness of everything. You can understand how everything around you is impermanent, changing. But in you, what do you feel? In you, what is your experience? The doubter, the jiva, the individual has a different experience about oneself. Because there is an experience the jiva is having, the Upanishad is taking that, the invocation is taking that and explaining. What is it? From whole, the whole emerges. Purnat, Purnam, Udachyate. And I said, let us ignore the word Purnam because it keeps repeating itself again and again and again. Let us not look into the word Purnam, Udachyate. In Vedas, when they talk about creation, in Vedas, in Vedanta, when they talk about creation, They are not attempting to establish creation. When science looks into the question of creation, it wants to pinpoint creation. In the Vedas, in the Upanishads, whenever the question of creation comes, they are not looking into the origin of creation. Why we don't look into the origin of creation? Creation is not a progression. Creation is an appearance. All these basic definitions all these basic understandings must be clear. According to the science, creation is progressive. Progressive means arithmetically or geometrically. First there will be nothing, then one will come, and that one will multiply into 2, and the 2 will multiply into 4, and the 4 will multiply into 16, 16 into, I don't know, whatever progression they have. It can be an arithmetic progression or it can be a geometric progression. What is the third progression? There are 3 types of progressions, no? One is arithmetic, another is geometric. What is the third one? Nobody will be unmuted. Summa type pannungo. Yeah. There is a progression, exponential, meaning there will not be any. See, in arithmetic progression and geometric progression, you can see a pattern. Exponential progression, you cannot see a pattern. But nevertheless, what is a pattern? It comes out and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. That is one understanding of creation. Vedas don't accept that model of creation. Why Vedas don't accept that model of creation? Because creation is an emergence. When it emerges, because it is emerging out of infinite, the emergence also must be infinite at the manifestation level. Because it is coming out of infinite, the emergence also at any given point in time when creation happens, the creation will be infinite. It cannot evolve gradually. Are you able to follow? When something comes out of something, we are bringing in a cause and effect relationship. We are bringing in a cause and effect relationship. And what is the principle of Mimamsa? The effect must have the properties of the cause. The effect cannot be something different from the cause. Then only there can be a sambandha. That's why it's called cause effect. The moment we say cause and effect relationship means the effect cannot be different from the cause. Infinite is what? Whole. Purnam is what is there ever. If anything comes out of Purnam, what it should have? It should have Purnatvam as its nature. So anything that comes out of Purnatvam must have Purnatvam as its nature. When it comes out, anything that comes out becomes available for perception. Anything that is available for perception is limited by nature. Puridapo. See, as long as it is remaining as Purnam, it is not available for perception. Purnam is not a subject matter of perception or cognition or knowing. If anything comes out of Purnam, immediately it will become a subject matter of perception, and moment anything becomes a subject matter of perception, it becomes anything that is available for perception must be, fill in the blanks, must be one word, limited. Anything that is available for cognition, anything that is available for perception must be limited by nature. How? The perceiver has an instruments which is limited by nature. That which has come out has nama rupa guna karma, that also will be limited by nature. Therefore, at the perception level, it is not, at the perception level, it is not Purnam. At the perception level, it is only Nama Rupa. Okay. When Nama Rupa comes out, does it have any bearing on the original? That's what the Upanishad says. When the Nama Rupa comes out, it will not have any problem in the original. When it merges back also, it doesn't add anything to it. From infinite, you cannot minus infinite. From infinite, you cannot add it back again. Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Purnat Purnamudachyate. All this is saying what? From infinite, something is come out, minus. And that minus, when you take that away, what remains is infinite, and that which is taken away, when you put it back, how it remains. So taken out has happened. When taken out has happened, the original remains, and that which has taken out comes back. When all these actions are happening, that's why we call it as verb, action. When all these things are happening, what happens to Purnam? Nothing happens to Purnam. One. Number two, if anything comes out of it, does it have any independent existence? This is Jagan Mithya now. Carefully follow. This is where Jagan Mithya is coming in. When something is coming out, does it have any independent existence? Mithya means that which cannot have any independent existence of its own. Satyam means it can exist all by itself. This is the difference between Satyam and Mithyam. And where did we study this Satyam and Mithyam? That we studied long back, sir, 25 years back we studied that, isn't it? Chapter 2, verses 16, 17. Nasato vidyate bhavaha nabhavo vidyate sataha ubayorapi drishtontaha tvanayoho tattvadarshibhihi. I wasn't there in that class, sir. That's why I'm not able to understand. Aparna. Correct. Now I am not able to understand because I didn't come to that class. If I had come to that class, I would have understood what is said here. It's repeated again and again and again. What is the meaning? See, there are so many people who sat in that class also, and they don't even remember it was discussed there. What is the difference? There it is discussed very beautifully. Nasato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate satah, ubayorapi drishtontaha tvanayoho tattvadarshibhihi. That tattvadarshibhihi means one who knows the truth in essence. Darshana. Darshana means one who sees it very, very clearly. What did they say? They talk about this distinction between, they understand the distinction between Sat and Asat. The Asat is a very pure technical word. See, wherever we use the word technical, what it means is it is unique to a subject. Technical means it is unique to a subject. For example, credit, the words credit and debit. In your everyday usage, will you use credit and debit? You will not use. But the word credit and debit, we call it as a technical term. Why it is called technical term? Whenever we Remember this, whenever we use the word technical, it means it is unique to that subject. So, Sat and Asat is very pure Vedic terminology. Later on, when the other literature came in, the word Mithya got introduced, and then now we are familiar with the word Mithya, we will use the word Mithya. Asat equals Mithya. And what is the definition of Mithya? Mithya means that which cannot have any independent existence of its own. It means dependent existence. Anything that has a dependent existence is Mithya. Anything that has an independent existence is Satyam. Number two, that which is dependent necessarily must be temporary. Anything that is dependent must necessarily be temporary. Therefore, Mithyam equals temporary dependent existence. When it is temporarily, when it is a temporary dependent existence, the temporary dependent existence of Nama Rupa is not different from anything else. Different from the original material. Again, to put it very simply, the pot is Mithya, the clay is Satyam. Correct? Yeah. I have said this any number of times. I am repeating it again. 3 examples is enough. The entire Upanishadic knowledge can be can be boiled down to 3 examples. Rope and snake, clay and pot, ocean and waves. Just 3 examples is enough. Again and again and again, we'll only keep repeating these 3 examples. The challenge that we have is how to make it appear new every week. As though we are saying new every, as though say same thing, but then the challenge is we have to make it appear new every week. You follow? Therefore, Mithya means dependent existence. Out of Purnam, something has come out, and that which has come out must necessarily have the qualities of Purnatvam in it. That's why when we discussed Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter, 9th chapter, and then we touched upon it in introduction of chapter 12 also, God created the world how? God created the world by becoming the world. This model of creation is Vedas, Vedanta. You follow, Amit? Everywhere else, the creator will have something different to create. It is not like the potter creating the pot. The potter creates the pot. God creates the world. It looks very logical, isn't it? In the same way, Vedas comes and says, no, no, no. It's not like the potter creating the pot. It is like Purnam Udachyate. Purnam Udachyate means the pot, the clay creates pot by becoming the pot. The pot is dependent on clay for its existence. The clay is not dependent on pot. Correct? Take the same clay and the pot. See, why they take the simple examples is because it was taught to, all this was taught to pure trusting minds. See, Upanishads and all is not worth reading nowadays because we have lost that, the pure trusting mind is lost now. And we think we are all better thinkers now, isn't it? We all have, we only know how to distrust everything, mistrust everything. Because it is spoken to a simple trusting minds, simple, because it is spoken to innocent, simple, trusting minds, simple examples is enough. Clay and pot, ocean and waves is is enough. Today, this example looks very, these examples don't make any sense because we are more, I don't know what we think about ourselves. The clay becomes the pot. Each and every cell of the pot is nothing but clay. But then why don't we call it as clay? Why do we call it as pot? Why don't we call it as clay? Why do we call it as pot? Why don't we call it as water? Why do we have to call it as ocean and the wave? Even though ocean and the wave is water, why don't we call it as water? Will you say, I went to the water? I went to the water today. Lot of water came. Big water came, small water came, and I was surfing in from big water. Surfing was good. Will you say all that? Why? On a transactional plane, Namarupa words alone must be used. Then only it will make sense. This is called clarity in thinking. But where comes the mistake is because we have to use words on a transactional plane, we started giving it a sense of reality. The Upanishads, the Vedas comes and tells us that which is given to you for transactional purposes, you have made it real. Because you have made it real, that has to be removed. What has to be removed? The reality that you have given to Nama Rupa must be removed. Don't worry about removing Nama Rupa. How can you remove Nama Rupa? Nama Rupa cannot be removed. But one thing you can remove. If you want to remove Nama Rupa, you have to erase the entire creation. Where will you go and erase the entire creation? You can't erase one tree here. You can't erase one thing here. It keeps reappearing again and again and again. So what are we doing here? We are not making Nama Rupa vanish. We are not making Nama Rupa disappear. That's why whenever Vedanta use the word Maya, 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 people turn and say, oh, it is there. No. How can you call it as? I said, it's like such a dumb question to, it is such a dumb question to ask because it is not to evaporate, to melt, to make the Nama Rupa vanish. What should vanish? What should disappear? The sense of reality that you have given to it must be removed. Once the intensity, the sense of reality, the intensity of reality that you have given to any experience, when it is removed, what remains? Purnam eva avasishyate. This eva is emphasis. Look at the simple Upanishad. One noun, two pronouns, three verbs, one particle for emphasis. This is all eva, alone. Why do we call it as emphasis? Because we could have easily said Purnam avasishyate, isn't it? That eva is for emphasis. And we are not going to take the emphasis and study like the way we studied the pronouns and the verbs. So we took the pronouns and then we understood it as same. Now we took the three verbs and then through these three verbs we are trying to understand how it is Jagan Mithya. Jagan Mithya means that which appears. Mithya means it doesn't have the reality that you have given to it. Now, what makes you to give reality to anything? What makes you to give reality to anything? Simply type, because any answer you give, I'm not going to agree. No, you know that. I will say something very different. What makes you to give reality to anything? You give reality to anything by continuous association. If you don't associate with anything continuously and look at it, this is called Sakshi Bhava. If you don't associate with anything continuously, mentally, and then look at it, how would you look at it? A person met with an accident. A person dying. I don't know whether it happens in other parts of the country. At least in Chennai it happens. Yeah. Kanniranjali poster otuvaanga. Isn't it? Kanniranjali poster means Divya. When somebody is dead, they make a poster. And about 200, 250 posters they put all over the place and they say this fellow is dead, born here, or no, obituary. You walk through and read that poster, what effect it has? So many times I do that. Sometimes when people are driving me also, I tell them, drive slowly. I want to read that. Poster. One of the days when Teju was driving me, I told her, go slowly. I want to read that poster fully. She thought it's a known person to me. She says, sir, you know that. I said, no, I just want to see how I'm feeling in relation to that poster. Absolutely nothing. Sakshi Bhava, objectivity was at its peak because I understand there is a person. I understood there's a person that is dead. I understood the person was there yesterday and that person has so many people around, loving, not loving, friend, enemy, etc. And all of a sudden that person disappeared. Nothing happens. Then in my head, I replaced it with some pictures. I will not tell you who those pictures are, Subramaniam. In my head, I replaced, okay, if this picture was there, how I will react? If this picture was there, how I will react? Now, the reaction is differing. Why the reaction differs? What is the cause? What is the cause for reactions to differ? Continuous association. No. It is not continuous physical association. Carefully follow. It's not, we can't say continuous association, means it's not continuous physical association, meaning you can sit with the person for 40, 50 years You can be married to a person for 50, 60 years and still feel the other person is a complete stranger. Isn't it? It means it's not the physical association that we are talking about it. Then what is association? Mental association. Therefore, udachyate, adaya, avasishyate, all this happens because of the mental association. And when you remove this mental association, what will be left behind? When you remove the mental association, what will be left behind? Purnam. Purnam alone will be left behind. And once you understand this Purnam, naturally what will happen to you? Once you understand this Purnam, what will happen? Not Ashanti, no. Once you understand this Purnam, what will happen to you? Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Here, the three Shantis is not the meaning of the three Shanti that we use in the other invocations. Because the recognition of Purnam is Shanti. And Shanti, and Shanti, and Shanti is the emphasis of the Shanti again here. So here we will not say Adi Bhautikam, Adhyatmikam, all this various, the cosmic, the external, the internal meanings of Shanti will not be applicable in the flow here. What is the flow here? Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. But then, why do you have to repeat it 3 times? They are repeating it. It has become a tradition. We keep saying it. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Now read the full invocation. Purnamada, Purnamidam. Mahavakya. Purnasya, Purnamadhaya, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadhaya, Purnameva, Vasishyate. It's not Vasishyate, Avasishyate. Because of the Sanskrit Sandhi and all, we say it as Vasishyate. Yeah. Like in Atma Bodha, verse number 21, when it is chanted, Yamale Sachitatmani, you will say. Actually, it is Amale Sachitatmani. But then when you say it in this thing, therefore, Avasishyate. Purnam Eva Avasishyate. And once this Purnam is understood, the natural consequence of recognizing the Purnam is Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. What is called as Purnam in invocation will be called as Isha in the first mantra. What is called as Purnam here becomes Isha in the first mantra. There we will go into Īśāvāsyam idam sarvam, etc. So for today, it is only that Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnam, Udachyate, Purnasya, Purnam, Adhaya, Purnam, Eva, Avasishyate. To summarize, understand this mantra. 1 noun, 2 pronouns, 3 verbs, 1 emphasis. Mahatma Gandhi quoting some of the scriptures, he says, if all the Vedas, if all the knowledge from the earth is wiped out, and if this one mantra is saved, the entire knowledge can be brought back. He says, humanity must try to save this mantra, he says. Just this one mantra, if we save. Purnamada, just this one mantra, if we save, he says, the entire things can be brought back. Why? Because the emphasis is very clear. What is the emphasis? Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva, Naparaha, and no invocation talks about it. Therefore, we say this invocation is separate and distinct from other invocations. There are some clarifications, questions which we will take up next week. With this, we conclude for today.